Alright, what's up, y'all? Miss Mac here, bringing you some power rankings for the Champions Path Draft League. It's gonna be a Regulation H Draft League with some Terra captains, but first, we gotta just put on some music. Get the vibes going. So, if you're new to this channel, welcome. I'm Miss Mag. I am a Draft League player. I enjoy playing draft, which is basically a format where you get to pick Pokemon like they are members of your favorite sports team and do battle with other coaches all over the server, or the world even. But enough waxing on that. So for this league, it is Regulation F. You get 3 Terra Captains with 3 different types. One must be a base type. They are all the low tiers. And for this draft, for these power rankings, I should say, I'm going to present them in draft order. So that means every coach is in draft order, and everything they pick on your screen is in draft order. So, what's up, Jonah and Stacks? Yeah, I hated watching those Switch ads. I'm sorry. I enjoyed watching the power rankings for those guys, but those Switch ads were killing me. So, with that being said, I should say, let me know if the audio is good, and we're just gonna get started. All right. First team. So we got Anti on the take, and I do actually have some notes ready, so I'm gonna pull those up right now. All right. So Anti's team is really cool. He made some trades, as Anti tends to always do. He makes a lot of trades. Usually before week 1, he's pretty much out of trades. Week 2 at the max. But this team is put together is actually pretty nice. It's very bulky. If you see those average stat numbers, like he's got a lot of high base HP mons, a lot of high base his SPDF is like honestly through the roof. At the same time, he's got a lot of mixed offense potential. Like Measler hits very hard on the physical side. Dragonite, King Gambit also hit very hard on the physical side. Volcarona hits very hard on the special side, as does Espeon and Indeedee Male. But one of the critiques I have about this team is his type chart's a little vulnerable. There's a lot of ground weaknesses. And yes, he does have 2 flying mons, but then, obviously those are weak to the same things. Oricorio is one of his Terra captains, as is the Ampharos, but I don't think it's enough to really change the fact that if you bring ground type moves, you're in usually a pretty good spot versus this team. You also, if you bring ground type Pokemon, you're in not the worst shape, because it's really just Swampert that you have to deal with. So once you kind of get past Swampert, it struggles a bit. Like some of these mons get water coverage, some of them get grass coverage, but I don't think it's really enough to override that pretty large ground weakness. I will say, as a sort of a point of advice, that he had Sinistcha before. I actually think Sinistcha was doing better on this team, just to kind of mitigate that ground weakness a bit and have like a dedicated ground resist redirection. I mean, there are plenty of spread ground moves, but I think Sinistcha was a better fit for this team personally. But I understand why you want the Volcarona, you want the combination with the Dancer, because when you Quiver Dance with Volcarona, then Dancer on Oricorio gives it a free Quiver Dance. I see it. I see the combos. I like the meshing of a lot of these mons together. And of course, the 4x weaknesses don't help his type chart too much either, but it's a solid team. I had it ranked overall at number 3. Alright, let us move on to the next team. This is Kid's team. Kid drafted, I think, one of the more clever teams. Oh, sorry, I lied. I cannot even read. Draft player can't read. My bad. It's actually Z King's team. So this is the Dondozo, Tatsugiri, Zoroark, Size Spam team. There is one of these in each division, or each conference rather. Yay us. But let's look at what my notes have to say. Yeah, so this team is just great at what it does. It puts a lot of pressure on you from prep, like trying to prep for Dondozo, Tatsugiri, which require very specific tools. Off K's. And in a format where not everything gets to like Terra, Grass, or Fairy away from Dondozo's strongest attacks is pretty brutal. And then, you throw Zorik in the mix, then you don't really know what's switching in and out and around. He's complemented that mode with the Indeedee and the Executor, which is like expanding force, very strong psychic attacks. So you try to bring Dark Mons to beat that, and then you can kind of lose the Dondozo Tatsugiri. It's a lot. And they somehow managed to fit a Sun mode in there with Torkoal and Chlorophyll Executor and like Eruption, Typhlosion, Dewey. Like, I don't know. This team is good luck to y'all in this division. I gotta actually play this guy. That's all I gotta say. Because this team is just great at forcing you to pull all your resources in different directions. There's like just so much good synergy here. But this team has like one of the most exploitable type charts I have ever seen. In saying that though, because it is good at stressing resources with its various modes that don't actually have anti-synergy, the type chart is really like where you gotta come hard. Like that dark weakness is real strong, and no amount of like Terra Captains are really gonna save you from that really strong dark weakness. The rock weakness is pretty apparent as well, as is the dragon. Not so much weakness, but just like lack of fairy types. You can kind of spam dragon in this team pretty safely, but it's really a matter of like, do you bring what you need to beat Dozo and then lose the Psy spam, lose the Sun? Do you bring Rain to counteract the Sun and then lose the Dozo in the back? Like, he put together a really solid team, so props to ZK. Now, we are going to move on to Kid's team, because I can read again. Alright, Kid's team is actually, I would say, one of the more balanced teams in this division, and there are a lot of really what I would describe as balanced teams. Not so top-heavy, but Kid's team is very well balanced. That fantasy core is disgusting. Dragapult, Corviknight, and Sylveon are very difficult to break. Dragapult and Sylveon are very good offensive threats. Dragapult is it's very flexible. It can be run visible or special, which is kind of cool. Corviknight, giving the team some speed control with Tailwind or some setup with Iron Defense, Body Press, Roost Up, is very nice as well. And then he's got Premier Redirection in Electabuzz. It's a little bit pricey, but like it's good for what it does. Static procs if you attacking like physical into his team are pretty good with Follow Me. Then he's also still got the Blastoise mode with like Shell Smash. Like he's got a lot of tools here. I would say my biggest critique for this team is, again, it's the type chart. And for a lot of the teams in this A conference, like the type chart is really where I'm gonna be like nailing it, because a lot of these teams are like really well balanced built wise. So like it really comes down to like them nitty gritty things when it comes to like critiques. Like this team has a bit of a struggle versus Fairy offense, just because it really only has the core as the Fairy resist. I'm not really taking into account Terra types on the captains, which are highlighted in purple. I'm not going to take into account Terra types on the captains, because then we'd be here all night. But just knowing that on base, you get one Terra per game, like it's not going to be that impactful to save you from what I imagine is a pretty harsh neutrality at best. But for the most part, Fairy is probably the one that I would say try to maybe shore up. Like Instant is nice, but because it's part dark, it doesn't actually resist Fairy. So, maybe that is something to consider as you play through the season. But honestly, this team is solid. Like it's gonna do very well this season. I have a lot of faith in it. All right, next team. Going over to Yama. Ranked 7th, we got our classic Mousehold Archelodon with the beat up and the stamina, so that you become incredibly physically defensively bulky, and you can't be killed that way. And then you have Friend Guard on top of it. Yeah, we've seen that. And then he's got the Archelodon with its favorite partner, which is a Rain Setter, Politoed. Politoed giving Archelodon those one-turn, no-charge Electro Shots. Charge, electric. And then he's rounded off the rest of the team with Dancer mode that we saw Anti having with the Oricorio. Bombi gets Quiver Dance, Bombi gets Pollen Puff. A lot of the same tools that Volcarona gets, which is very nice. I think Milotic is probably my favorite part of this team. It really brings the team together with like a really strong, bulky water. It also really discourages stat dropping because there's a good amount of setup on this team, like in the general sense. So I like the fact that you have the competitive to dissuade like snarls and intimidates and all that stuff. Yo, Mega Man, what's up? Go watch this later. Cool. Don't forget to leave a comment. We'd love to hear what you guys think. Feel free to pipe up in the chat if you want me to talk about a certain team a little bit more or ask any questions. Just let me know. There's a lot of teams, so I just want to make sure I give everybody a little bit of their shine. So don't mind me if I'm just kind of going through it. But yeah, this team is overall pretty solid. I'm gonna check my notes. Yeah, my biggest critique is this team is pretty low on Fizz offense. Like, a lot of the good mons on this team are special hitters. Archaludon, Rotom, Milotic. Like, Trevenant is probably one of the better physical mons on this team. I mean, Berserker is okay. I don't think you bring Berserker every single week. Not when you have better fake out options in Meowstic for support. And of course, Maushold it's a good physical attacker if you just click Population Bomb, but then that means it's got to be run offensive more often than not. So depending on what you're doing every week, you may not. But yeah, the other thing was just I thought the Ghost weakness on this team was a little bit difficult to manage. They don't have a Dark type, and I mean they have a lot of fighting weak mons anyway, just because they have 2 Steel types and a normal type, and then Rotom Fridge, which is an Ice type. But I thought the Ghost weakness might be a little bit much for them to traverse. Like it's kind of like his team. Like it hits a good chunk of your team for neutral, and you still only get 1 Terra. Yeah, you have the Maushold as an immunity, but I mean once they get rid of Maushold, Ghost is still pretty free. But yeah, I mean it's still a solid team. Like I said, rank 7. It's like I'd say this is like middle of the pack definition team. Has like 1 or 2 really common, in my opinion, easily fixable things, and then like really strong synergy with the rest of the team. Like those 3 things kind of put our friend Yama at rank 7. All right, next up, it's gonna be Parenthetical. Now, this is the team I personally ranked at number 1, and I'll go through like a general summary of their rankings later because I'm doing this in draft order. But I didn't want to have y'all waiting too much to get to the end. But yeah, I thought this team was ranked number 1, and the really big thing that sold me on this team is these modes fantastic. Like they're just really well put together. You have a really solid Trick Room mode with the Ursaluna, with the Azumarill, with the Chimecho setting Trick Room. You have a solid like Earthquake spam mode with the amount of honestly things that are off the ground. You have a little rain mode with the Grafai and the Basculegion, Swift Swim, even throw Azumarill in the mix there. And then if nothing else, you just have PZ on the team to like nuke things or perform as a backup Trick Room setter. Like it's just got such a very good balance of stuff. Vindicated, yes sir. Yeah, this team just kind of has a little bit of everything, and like its one real weakness, like type chart wise, is actually fire, but it has like a whole rain mode dedicated to turning off that fire weakness, which I think is like really cool that he managed to fit that in. My one critique of this team is actually that it's a little bit low in like the debuff department. Now I'm a player that likes, personally, I like playing balanced teams. I like teams that just have a lot of good mons. Not necessarily like a ton of very obvious modes, and we'll talk about that when we get to my team and the other conference. But like, I like having a good mix of tools at my disposal. It's like debuff stuff like Snarl and Eerie Impulse, you know, Baby Doll Eyes, Will-O-Wisps, that kind of stuff is pretty lacking on this team. Even just some stuff like Haze isn't really present. So like, yeah, the team is good. It has solid moves, but like, if the opponent gets like a bit of a leg up in terms of positioning, this team may find it a little bit hard to get back from that. But that's really just kind of nitpicking. But this is by far, in my opinion, the strongest team in the A conference. And it's a really close race. Like, I'm not even kidding. Alright, let's move on to the next team in A conference. This is Issues team. Issues ranked at 11th. And let me just pull up my notes to start. This is another team that has like really solid moves. Like that Parastrap mode is disgusting. To be quite honest, the setup mode with the Kumo and the Final Gambit, like Final Gambit on the Squawk ability, like this, the modes are crazy, and then you throw the Zora Kasui in just to like really cause a lot of mind games. It's a lot. Like this is a tough team to lead into because you don't know what's coming. Like you see a Mon on lead and it could be Zorak, and Zorak might icy wind you, and then the partner just like one shots you. Like that's a problem. The one thing I will say about Zorak on this team in particular, there are a few mons it can't really masquerade as. Like it shouldn't masquerade as Rillaboom ever, and it's unlikely to masquerade as Squawk ability, but that's like literally about it. But that's my favorite part about this team is I like the modes a lot. I thought the type chart was a little bit weak for this one. Like a lot of rock weaknesses, that's pretty standard. Yeah, you guys did really cook really hard in this division. Like I don't know, these teams are crazy. Like y'all was all in the kitchen for this one. Yeah, I thought the type chart just had a lot of glaring weaknesses that could be exploited. I also think there's a fair bit of overlap. Like, I personally don't understand why we have Rillaboom and Sarina. I don't understand why we have Primarina and Empoleon. You know, those are things that I think could be like better optimized in my opinion. So yeah, this one is a little bit closer to the bottom, just on those basis. All right, on to Carney, our commissioner. 1 of 2 with B Handy. It's also his birthday today, so when you're rewatching this stream, Carney, happy birthday, bro. Thank you. Love you for everything that you do. Appreciate you. And you are ranked number 5th. You're ranked 5th, my friend. This is your birthday present. Is you are in the top 5 in your conference, and I'm about to tell you why. Your mixed offense potential on this team is honestly kind of really disgusting. Like Goldango, Mortar, and then on the Goldango, Magmortar, Gardevoir on one side, and then Donphan, Samurott, and I'm gonna even throw Grimmsnarl in there on the other side. Like you're 3 for 3 on really strong offensive like pieces. That's a lot to honestly prep for. Like really, really determinedly prep for. Like that's a lot of offense. And your bulk is like really solid, and it's only increased by your prankster screens from the Grimmsnarl, and also just like Pollen Puff from Fungus, and anything like Smeargle can cook up, honestly. I thought this team also had a bit of an exploitable, actually not really so much type chart. I thought this team had exploitable speed tiers, actually. That high end is really, like that 85 to 125 gap is really substantial. Like there's a lot of wiggle you can do in there. And I feel like opponents can take advantage of that since you don't have like a prankster weather mode where like you can kind of offset that big speed gap. Like yeah, you have prankster Thunder Wave and you have a ton of redirection, but redirectors don't necessarily affect opponents going for spread moves, and the Thunder Waves won't affect anything that happens to be immune to prankster or electric, or if they're like clear emulate with Scary Face. So I thought that was the toughest part of your team, was that break in that speed tiers. I thought was a lot, because to me this reads like a hard Trick Room team, but at the same time your only Trick Room setter is like Gardevoir. I'm not gonna count Smeargle, sorry. So it's like I felt like your speed tiers just need a little bit of refining. Yeah, what's up, Dan? Am I doing A? I'm doing both conferences. So starting with A, mainly because A didn't get that nice write up from Bihani, and I actually took a bit of inspiration from what he did to make these power rankings. So I'm gonna give A their stuff first. So you can stick around or rewatch the VOD. We're gonna get to Z. But yeah, Carney's still drafted, I think, a top 5 team. Honestly, like the speed tier thing, I think easily can just be fixed by shuffling around a few pieces. The Smeargle just adds a whole degree in prep that you don't really want to deal with, especially paired with Makalola. y'all already know what that nonsense, those shenanigans are about. So, but yeah, no, no worries. Happy to do this. I really enjoy talking about Pokemon. It's one of my favorite things to do. All right, so we're gonna leave Carney C behind once again. Happy birthday, and let's move on to Jake for the win. Now Jake is ranked at rank 9, and it was a really tough decision because I actually really I like a lot of the individual Pokemon on this team, and I like a lot of the modes on this team in particular. I like that Snow mode with the Baxcalibur. I like the Thwacky Drifloon mode. I really like Arcanine and Slowbro as like a bulky kind of Fire Ward and Grass Spore, along with the Thwacky. And I think Jolteon is a really solid budget, like disruptive mon, Charm, Eerie Impulse, all that jazz. Yeah. My boy Donphan. Oh, what's up, Kevs? Yeah, 10 out of 10. I thought Donphan's pretty good, and it was in the D tier of all things. Like, it's criminal for it being down there. But anyway, back to Jake's team. So on my notes, like the bulk on this team, top tier. The modes are good. The type chart, it really is that type chart. Like, I get being ice with or being with the snow mode, but like that is a lot of fighting weak mons. And Gengar cannot. Gengar and Drifloon, I do not think can pull all that weight. That's a lot of fighting weak mons to really have to kind of deal with. Alternatively, like I'm not even gonna really touch too much on the rock weakness because like you're running snow. That's honestly that's kind of expected. Same with fire. But I think the fighting weakness can be shored up a little bit. I also think there's a little bit of role overlap here. Like, I don't love Chestnut on this team because, like, I don't think you need the second grass type there so much. I understand the Sandslash Alola, you know, like Snowclub or Slush Rush. I'm not personally a big fan of it, but like I get it being there for the modes. But yeah, that's probably like, the Chestnut just seems a little out of place for me. You know, like a lot of your team is fairly good at like setting stuff up. I don't really think you need the Chestnut on top of it. But I also know from playing them in previous season, Chestnut's like one of his favorite mons, so I understand picking it up. And it's got some good merit, but I might just reconsider it. The type chart's just a little bit shaky for me, personally. So that's why it's at rank number 9. Also, props to him picking up that Duraludon Terra Captain. I thought that was a steal down there. Like, absolutely good steal in the C tier. Because it gets Eviolite now. Alright. Next up, we got Darius. Darius is at rank 8, just a smidge above Jake. So one thing I love about this team compared to a lot of other teams we've looked at so far, this team has a good type chart. Like, not too many exploitable weaknesses. Like, it has a rock weakness, but it's just like it's kind of just getting to that rock weakness. Like, the team actually has a good amount of rock resist, which is something we haven't seen too much of. So type chart is my favorite thing about this team. I also like a lot of these mons individually. I think Whimsicott's great. I think those first 5 are solid. Whimsicott all the way down to Slowking are really good. I also think Gudra and Tonkelder are very good. I get why you picked the Glaceon for the snow mode with the chilly reception Slowking. I'm not super high on it. Haunter is great value in the D tier. Swanna is also pretty solid value in the D tier, although it's not really going to have an ability so much just because you don't really have any rain. Pikachu is great, nice and cheap. Minior is okay. I'm not the highest one on Minior, I will be completely honest. I know it can do things, but I can't say I'm like super convinced by it. The other thing with this team is I think it's really low on the physical offense. Like, pretty much outside of Conk and Overquill, you're gonna struggle to get some physical offense going. Yeah, I know Minior can be mixed, but you know, and Gudra can also run physical sets with some relative success. But I think you could use maybe one more strong physical attacker, in my opinion at least. I also think there's a bit of role overlap. Like, I don't actually understand Swanna's role specifically on this team, because as a somewhat bulky water, like Slowking kind of does that better, and then as a tailwind setter, Whimsicott kind of does that better. So like, that kind of confuses me. Like Minier is kind of the same thing. Like I don't really understand like what his role is on the team. I definitely see like the Whimsicott supporting like the Blood Moon and the Typhlosion, and even the Overgrowth. Just like Overgrowth and Tailwind is not exactly something to like scoff at, or like Conkeldurr and Tailwind. But I'm missing a little bit of that, and I think this team could use like one more like kind of cleric mon, like especially if you're playing to like having Goodra on your team, like unless you're dedicated to running it offensively every week, which you could. I think like a cleric mon for those Iron Defense Body Press endgames might help it out a little bit more. Maybe even something like Poltergeist in the lower tiers, but that's just me. That's just literally going off the dome. All right, let's go on to Carnage. Carnage, rank 10. I have to say, at first, I did not see the vision of this team, but I did end up playing Carnage in a preseason game, which you guys will see that at some point. After my week 1, I'll get that going. But I did like I took a second look at this team before we played, and I realized like it's that dual weather kind of thing. You get the Prankster, you have the 2 strong, abusers of weather, and then you kind of build like a little bit more of a solid team around that. But let us look at the notes. So yeah, there are some really good modes. This is another team with a good type chart. Yeah, it's really weak to ground, but like not so much. Like it's got a very good amount of legitimate like anti-ground mons with the Charizard, the Hydreigon, and the Skiploom. So can't really mess too much there. I think this team's biggest weakness is on PhysDef. It is really struggling. Like a lot of strong physical mons can do some real damage into this team. Yeah, Annihilate likes to bulk up. You have the Prankster coaching, but I think and you have Stockpile on Clodsire, but like really strong physical attackers like will just kind of knuckle sandwich this team, and you don't have that many tools to stop that. Like you don't have any like Prankster screens or anything like that. Like you got Will-O-Wisp on Zard, but like who's running Will-O-Wisp on Zard? More often than not, it's going to be backing. So I would just say maybe consider switching up some of those lower tiers. Maybe try to get something a little bit more in the PhysDef department, just if you find yourself struggling. But that's just me. But I had to put it at 10. It just needs a little something else to just kind of give it a push. All right, next team. We're almost done with this conference actually. It's Mr. Amazing. Yes. Mr. Amazing down here, or I should say up here, rank 6. So I found this team to actually be very similarly built to Carney's, but I ranked it lower. Just literally the biggest difference between him and Carney's team is it's that lack of special offense. Like he has the same exploitable speed tiers problem that Carney did. He has the same great mode. Actually, he has better. I would say better modes than Carney. Honestly, like the rain mode is pretty fearsome, and you have the, you have the little bit of the shell smash mode with the Torterra and the redirection of Moongus. But like the lack of actual physical offense on this team, like sorry. My bad. I said physical offense. My bad. This team has great physical offense. I meant lack of special offense. Too many nose reading. Yeah, the lack of special offense of this team is really kind of frightening. It's really just kind of Kingdra and like Caliper and maybe Sceptile with a Leaf Storm. So I would just look to balance that. I thought that put him just a peg under Carney, because at least Carney's team, while it has the exploitable speed tiers problem, it has really balanced offenses, like equal, very strong special and very strong physical mons put together on the same team. Yeah, P2 not being able to Terra is pretty scary in the face of fighting types, but I mean, you could also just run Shovelberry on it. No one said you had to run Eviolite. Just saying, that's, if it works for you. But yeah, I had to rank this at 6. This Rain Room team is pretty frightening, honestly. I wish Sceptile was a little bit more enabled, and like I know in the Discord, like Anti's like jonesing for this mon, but I have to say from like an objective standpoint, I wish Sceptile was a little bit better enabled. Maybe some terrain. I mean, there's there's some fringe ways to get that on burden going, but to me, it's just it's a little awkward here. Just like being completely honest. All right, let us get to the last team in the division, number 12, which is Big Bird's team. Oh yeah, Sceptile does have Shed Tail. I can't. You're right. I can't actually shoot it down for that. All right. Unfortunately, someone always has to be at the bottom. That's how power rankings work. So this is Big Bird's team, and I had him ranked at number 12. So I'm gonna take a look at my notes. So the biggest thing I really like about this team, individual mons, Garchomp, Burgerath, Illumise, Arcanine Hisui, Rotom E, T-Tart. Fantastic individual mons. None of them can Terra though, so I think that brings me into the biggest critique of this team, is there is a very exploitable type chart here with all those 4x weaknesses. And in a way where I don't think the speed control is good enough, even though they have like two of the best speed control mons I think in the game. Burgerath is very hard to deny Trick Room from, and Illumise is very hard to deny Tailwind from. But I just feel like the 4x weaknesses they're a lot. I will say though, the Lumineon Terra Captain pickup, fantastic. That does help, especially when Camerupt and Arcanine Sweep both have 4x weakness to water. But type chart is my biggest critique. I also think some of the speed tiers are a little bit clumped. Like those 3 base 90s. That's a lot. I think that's a lot of unnecessary clumping. Especially when like you don't have when you have that type chart exploitability and the clump speed tiers, it kind of makes like a really painful sandwich of like opponents kind of knowing where around how to prep for. Like if I can bring some strong water and ground type moves in this team and basically beat out base 90s, I'm probably having a decent time. But yeah, I mean, it's still a solid team, and I know he's been working hard on it, improving it with trades since the actual beginning of the draft. These are teams affected week 1. I tried my best to wait until all the trades and stuff were in. So I think I might have maybe missed like 1 or 2, but for the most part, these are teams affected week 1. So yeah, that's Big Bird's team. I'm just gonna go to this outro slide real quick. So here are the final rankings for the A Division Conference. So we got Parenthetical, Z-King, Anti, Cade, Carney, Amazing, Yama, Darius, Jake for the win, Carnage, Issue, and Big Bird. Now, these are definitely up for changing, swapping, everything, because this is just me reading the teams on paper. I'm not accounting for coach skill. I'm not accounting for anything other than basically what I see in that prep dot and my own just general knowledge of like the metagame. So I know everybody in this league is a serious contender. So I don't even think player skill needs to really enter this discussion all that much. But these are the final rankings for the A Division. Common Perry W. I mean, honestly, I really like this team. I know he complained about getting sniped on, I think, like 3 mons, but I actually really like what he turned up with. All right, let's get ready to start the party with the Z conference. It's gonna take a minute, kind of bring it back. Want to get some water, grab a drink, drinking some lemon tea tonight. Feel free, and we'll get started in like another minute or 2. I will say though, on the whole, this division was way tougher to rank than the one that's coming up. I think the Z division has some really clear front runners, but this division, everyone was very very minute critiques across the board that can honestly really easily be fixed. I don't think any team is unsalvageable. Alright, y'all ready to see the conference? Alright, let's get cooking. Go over to Z conference doc. Alright, so I'm not gonna do the intro again, but you know, same as the previous division. It's a regulation age draft with the Terra captains. 3 types. One has to be a base type or a stab. Same type attack bonus for you guys. And the Terra captains are of the lowest tier. One in the C tier, 2 in the D tier, and these are also presented in draft order. So each coach at the bottom was the order that they got to pick their Pokemon, and you know, y'all already know who it is. Let's jump in. We're starting with Jake's team. Not to be confused with Jake for the win, but Jake's, just Jake's. So Jake's team is ranked at number 5, and for my notes on this team's Disquake mode, crazy. Garchomp, Rodent Wash, just click Discharge and Earthquake, and just watch things like crumble. And then you throw in some really good speed control with Talonflame. Excuse me. And even Hypno is not terrible as a low tier Trick Room setter, being that it has Inner Focus. So, you know, very hard to deny Trick Room from that. Like, you're just in the general sense, like, you're just having a good time if you're Jake's. If you're Jake's and you're piloting this team where I can either click haha funny spread move, or I can click haha funny speed control and get my guys in the position to be victorious, you're having a good time. I think the biggest critique I have for this team is fairly obvious, actually. This team's special offense output is abysmal. It's really just Gengar and Rotom as your special offense. So I think it just makes it very easy for people to pack like good amount of Fizz Def and like 1 Assault Vest, and then you might be having a really tough time navigating that kind of matchup. I also think type chart wise, this team is okay. I do think this team will struggle against any team that has really good Ghost offense, just because you have like the Muckalola is like your only actual Ghost resist, and since it is a Terra captain, it may want to Terra depending on certain matchups. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So I thought this team had strong enough good points that it outweighed the bad points. So it's above the middle, and you're gonna get to see all of the rest of the teams as we move on to the second person in our conference. We got Stone Storm taking us on a self-proclaimed field trip back to Generation 8. You know, back in the days where things were big, had double HP. They called it Dynamax. So we drafted a lot of Gen 8 Pokemon. Let me take a look at my notes. Oh yeah, this is another team with a really great fantasy core. Funny that the great fantasy cores in both divisions both have Dragon Ball and Corviknight. I mean, it just goes to say something, you know? This one has Alcremie. I'm a little less high on Alcremie personally compared to like something like Sylveon, but it's still good. Like, Decorate is not to be underestimated, and a lot of Stone Storm's team is bulky enough that they can live a hit and then enjoy a +2 boost to their offensive stats. So, fantastic fantasy core. The worst part about this team, this fairy weakness. Oh boy, man. This fairy weakness goes so hard in the paint. I will grant a small bit of leniency because 2 of the mons that are weak to fairy can technically Terra out of their fairy weakness, but like that's still, again, it's 1 Terra per game. So that fairy weakness is really bad. Like, you deal with Corviknight and fairy just kind of runs through the rest of this team without any real objection. And there's a lot of setup threats here. Just off the rip, Corviknight likes to set up, Chestnut likes to set up, Cyclozar enjoys clicking Shed Tail to help other mons set up, Nasselsnack likes to set up. Like, I feel like you need better disruption or better support for these big setup threats. Like, a bit of redirection, I think, would go a long way with this team in particular. because it's difficult to rest the fates of all of that setup on just Fake Out from like Incineroar and Grimmsnarl. I'll grant that Cyclizar Shed-Tail does help a little bit, but like the second most people will see Cyclizar, if they can't outspeed it, there's a good chance they just double the slot to try to get rid of the assumed Shed-Tail substitute. So just keep that in mind. But I do really like a lot of the individual Pokemon on this team, and I think this is easily fixable with some trades. One other thing that I actually didn't notice until literally this stream, special offense is also pretty low on this team. Like, Alcremie is your strongest special attacker. I would definitely reconsider balancing that out a little bit better, personally. Alright, off to the next team. Alola Jonah, down here at rank 11. I'm going to just look at my notes. So, this team has some really good bulky options. Farigiraf, Araquanid, Clefable, all pretty solid bulky mons. Like, really solid bulky mons. But the type chart, man. This type chart makes me very sad. Yeah, like, the flying weakness in particular is really rough for a lot of the members of this team, and I'm not even really counting Cottonee. It's really some of the key players like Sneasler, Araquanid, cannot Terra, so they're gonna take really strong flying super effective damage. I think that's really rough. I wish this team had an electric type to just help balance out that flying weakness a bit more, and the electric weakness because there are a lot of flyers on this team themselves. Outside of that, there's too much role overlap. Like, I don't understand having Sinistcha and Clefable. I think Sinistcha is not super great on this team if you want to keep Clefable. I think Clefable is more consistent redirection, being that it has Follow Me. The Oricorio pick is a little bit strange too, since you don't have any Quiver Dance mons that I can see, so the Dancer is kinda just up in the air. But that's kind of my overall take. This team is, again, still easily fixable with like trades, and I would say like work on shoring up the type chart and getting rid of some of those, like get some of those really key types. Get your electric type. Get like a Steel Mon. Like, this team is just kind of like a mess of like broken cores at the moment. So I will say I do like the Colossal mode even with Terra. I think you can afford a better proc than Bryn Fluff though, but I get it. Like, it's a 2-minute timer, we get sniped, but overall, this team has a great foundation. It just needs a little polishing. You had Haxorus in your other league and it didn't come once. I have actually never drafted Haxorus this generation anyway. Very strong offensive piece. Base 147 attack with Mold Breaker is really hard to ignore. Alright, next team in the Z Conference. We're moving on to Danby. Danby ranked at 7th. Balance comp. Outside of anything else I might say, balance comp all the way through. There's a very good degree of strong, good toolkits. The Klefki, the Weavile, the Annihilate, Bayonet, they all have really solid, honestly, toolkits. Like, they can be pretty flexible in what they can do. Same with Blastoise. Blastoise is probably one of the more flexible pieces on this team, quite honestly. I do think this is another case of the type chart kind of getting a little bit scary. Like, Fire and Fairy, for the most part, like, really run through this team because this team's Fairy resists are also weak to Fire. Granted, there's a Terra captain among them, but I mean, it's just little Fungus. He can only really do so much. But on the whole, I think that's probably like my biggest critique of this team is just the type chart. There's some arguable, like, not necessarily wanting to be in Trick Room all the time, but like, some flexibility. Like, I don't totally understand the Emboar pick, I mean, it's a good bulk. It's just a good slow, bulky offense spawn. If your goal is really like to like play under Trick Room, it would seem like the fast mode of this team would be pretty difficult outside of Salamence. Salamence can't Terra in terms of getting that fast mode, but then again, you know, you have the Thunder Wave from the Klefki and Icy Wind Weavile. Again, this is why I say like the team is balanced, so it hits like right around the middle. Good job, Dan. Right around the middle. Like, play it out, see how you feel, what's not working, make changes. That's basically what I gotta say about this team going forward. Next up, it is Mega Man, who didn't draft Armor Rouge. Missed opportunity, really, but I know he's more of a Sour Lynch fan. Yeah, Mega Man drafted Sun, and he drafted a lot of Sun, just a lot of Sun. But these Sun modes are really stifling. They're very good. Torkoal Lilligant, Lilycold is kind of ridiculous, honestly. And I like that he chose the Hisuian Lilligant. I mean, there's not really a reason I think, in my opinion, to use the regular one, but you know, I like the Hisuian Lilligant better for what it can do, even when Sun is not up. Just a way more threatening offensive presence. Looking at my notes, yeah, great modes and damage. This type chart is really, really tough. And like Sun teams are gonna normally have, like any weather team is usually gonna have like a tough type chart, but like there's a lot of red there, a lot of red. So I think we definitely got to fix up some of those overlaps. Like I get Leafeon like as a low tier pick that fits with the Sun theme, but I think this team went a little too all in on Sun and needs to peel back a little bit of its balance to balance out. A lot of those type weaknesses are very exploitable. I have to say, I really like how this team's base stats kind of came out for the most part, despite the over commitment on Sun, in my opinion. And let me see, I think, yeah. Oh yeah, and there's just lots of roll compression and overlap, like Mercury. I get Mercury on the team having like the prankster, and of course, you know, you have the Oricorio with the Volcarona for the dancer. But like, yeah, like Leafeon and Lilligant are like an example of like too much like roll compression. Even Kamo seems a little out of place here without like, you know, more dedicated redirection. So, you know, Dazzling Gleam is still gonna hurt just at the end of the day. Alright. Next team. Yeah, so I'll just make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah. Yeah. Alright. Yeah, so I think just like work on some of that roll compression, and then you'll be you'll be alright. But Sun is scary, and Sun is pretty busted in draft. Not gonna lie. All right, next team you might recognize, because I certainly do. It's my team. Out of fairness, I did not rate my team. Just so that I can be as unbiased as possible. Feel free to leave a rating for my team in the comments, or at me in the Discord, DM me, whatever. So I built this team. This is what I ended up with after like numerous gray strays, because 2 minutes armor in this league done legit fucked me all the way up. I had a good start. Like my entire draft pretty much revolved around just getting Torterra and a decent Fairymon and just building from there. And then like that 2 minutes armor just messed me up somewhere in the middle. So like I had like a lot of random roll overlap compressions, but this is the final product for now. I like this team. Actually, I lied. I love this team. It fits my playstyle, and I can't really take that into account with rating it, which is why I'm not, but I can speak to my own playstyle. I will say that it is not a click buttons kind of team. That those aren't always my favorites, or at least I haven't found one that I really enjoy. But I like the toolkit. I think I have a lot of different modes and flexible things that I can do from week to week that will make prepping for this team difficult. I would say like the one criticism of my own team, I wish I had just a little bit more bulk, specifically in the HP department. But you know, I take a little bit of that in trade. That a lot of my mods do have pretty high defense. They have high defense stats. That's nice. Yo, Stickers Bar. What's this league about? So this is a Regulation H low tier Terra Captains League. So basically, the C and D tiers are the only mons that are allowed to use Terra, and they can use a stab typing and 2 additional types for their Terra. Everything else can't Terra. So my Terra Captains are the Torterra, which I built the entire draft around. Zorak, which is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, and Tauros Kanto. I haven't used Tauros ever, really, so this will be a nice introduction to that, using that mon. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what this team is about. So, or rather, that's what this league is about. Just Regulation H, low tier. Yeah, you love those formats? Yeah, me too. I think this is fun. So, I also think I have one of the most balanced teams, honestly, in this division. Like, I don't think there are too many exploitable things you can do to my team. I'm not going to give you all of them anyway, or really any. But my type chart is pretty clean. My speed tiers are pretty clean. I have a good plethora of tools at my disposal. I'm feeling pretty good about this season. It really will just be a challenge for me to basically not get in over my own head with all of these resources. So let's see. But that is my team. Yes, Miss Mag, as Carney said, the psychopath that drafted 3 fairies when I only intended to draft 1, which was my first pick, which was actually Gardevoir. Been meaning to try out Gardevoir for a while, and I know a lot of people might have been confused by that first pick, but one of my golden rules in draft are, honestly, if you want a mon, just take it. You can rarely predict what coaches will do in terms of, drafting certain mons. I knew I wanted Torterra, but I was more comfortable leaving Torterra for round 2 than I was leaving Gardevoir. And Gardevoir is pretty good utility for the tier that it's in, and has 3 very usable abilities with a humongous move pool. Yeah, it was time. All right, let's move on to the next team. I've talked enough about my shenanigans. This is Itachi's team. This is the other Dondozo Psyspam weather team. This weather is sand, so it's different than the one we saw in the other division, but it has a lot of the same key components. And this one actually has the 2 in Zorak, so it's a little bit more lethal. Let's see what my notes have to say about this team. It is ranked at number 3 because, again, the team is good at what it does. It has fantastic modes. The prep pressure from this team is ridiculous, trying to prep for everything that this team can do. The biggest critique I have, that ground weakness is real tough, man. The ground weakness is real tough, and your only non-ground weak mon is Legendary. Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot, especially when like your prime mode mons like Dondozo, P-Terra, Excadrill, they can't Terra, and they're Dondozo is not weak to ground, but like it's a lot to deal with. Like you don't have too much mitigation for that ground weakness. Dondozo is the scariest illusion target. Hard agree. Absolutely agree. I used that combo before in a different league. I didn't pilot it super well, but that's just a skill issue on my part. I don't think I pilot Dondozo Tatsugiri super well in the general sense. I need more practice. But yeah, this is easily a rank 3 team. I actually think this team is scarier than the Dondozo Tatsugiri team in the other division, just by virtue of some of these players being a lot more threatening. This team does have a low BST total, but I mean, that's kind of like expected with multiple kind of NFEs to be quite frank. Solid team though. No question about it. Very scary. Moving on to Stax. Stax is ranked 6. So this is basically like smack dab in the middle. So I'm gonna check my notes. Yeah, this is another mixed offensive team with amazing pressure. Amazing pressure with the Goldango, with the Star Raptor, the Trevenant, the Baxcalibur. It's just a lot of really strong mixed offensive pressure. And you really have good solid support options. Indeedee is top tier support. Rabombi is really good budget support. Even Palmot could be supportive, Revival Blessing, Eerie, Impulse, all that stuff. My biggest critique, I think the type chart, just a little iffy. Just a little bit. Like, the ground weakness is actually not so bad here because there are 2 flying types. That's not the worst, but I do think like the fire weakness it can be a lot to deal with. I also think this team is not super bulky in like the general sense. Although one positive thing about this team is they do have Rabombi, which can set screens and is immune to fake out thanks to shield dust. But I think even like having like prankster screens might have gone a little bit of a higher would have gone a longer way with this team in particular. But it's definitely very scary. Like, being on the wrong side of Baxcalibur, Goldango is rough. And then you have Indeedee that will facilitate redirection so that they can set up so that they can absolutely murder your team. Good luck. But yeah, solid draft for stacks. Yeah, Dozo, Gary, Gazoric, and Trent, yeah. Yeah, Dozo, Gary plus Illusion is just... Illusion mind games when they're, like, really, like, played well. Zorik is a beast in the hands of a really talented coach. That is all I can really say about that. Alright, we got 4 more teams. Let's go. Alright, rank 2, we got Anno. I appreciate you, Stacks, no problem. We got Anno at rank number 2. This is probably this is easily the second most frightening team in the league. And lucky for me, this is my week 1 opponent. So I'll be straightforward, but I'm not going to give up every single thing about this team right off the rip. The biggest thing about this team is the modes are just fantastic. The Sableye enabling the Basque Legion Typhlosion dual weather mode it's so good. The Trick Room package is solid. P2 Ursaluna is disgusting. On the fast end of things, you have that nice little Disquake mode with the Kilowattrel and the Ursaluna as well. Hitmonchan was a great pickup. Really strong budget fighting type because it's in the D tier. Fake Out, Inner Focus, great pairing. Strong offense with Iron Fist. Fantastic all around. Like, really good offensive pressure and speed control. The biggest critique is going to be that type chart. Really, like, there are so many mons weak to fighting. And I don't think 2 ghost types is necessarily enough to punish that. There's also a lot of Pokemon weak to ground tier as well. I think that's got to be my biggest critique of this team. I think shuffling some of them low tiers around could do this team a lot of good. Personally, like, I don't love Berserker on this team. I get like wanting to Steel type though, but I think you can shuffle around some of the low tiers just to cover up some of those weaknesses. But I look forward to our week 1 match, Anno, and you have built a really strong team, my friend. I will see you on the battlefield. Alright, let's go on to next team. KD, Mr. Adidas himself, with a team that most of us who have participated in CPDL, Champions Map Draft League, know very well. KD do love his Mousehold. He does love his abusive dragon types. It shouldn't surprise you that he drafted Archelodon with Rain. Yeah, and he managed to fit an Anger Point mode on with the Primeape and the Glalie. Yeah. KD is all about combos, and this conglomeration of combos puts him at rank number 4. So, and the only real critique I have about this team, physical offense is like, it's borderline non-existent. Like, Primeape has to basically carry that torch by itself. Like, yeah, again, Mousehold can do like physical damage with Pop Bomb, but yeah, this team needs more in general physical offense. Like, when Primeape and Archelodon are tied for your highest physical attackers, I feel like you just need to shuffle some of those pieces around just a little bit. But I do really like the modes of this team. That rain mode supporting the Archelodon. The Magmortar and the Mousehold is really nice double redirection because it allows either of those two mods to run offensive sets. And then Meowstic is just like the glue that kind of binds the team together with the Frank's support package. So very, very solid draft, Katie. I am looking forward to facing you, not so much this team, but you, yes, during this season. Alright, 2 more to go. We got MC Honor. MC Honor down at rank 10. So these mons individually are really solid. I love the Ninetales. I love Rillaboom. Chandelier was my ever-loving GOAT the last season I competed here. Slowking is great. I just had a great one with Lapras, Terra Captain Lapras in a different league. Mamoswine is fantastic. A lot of really solid individual pieces. But many of these modes are just half complete. Oh, it's a Christmas themed team? I mean, alright, I can be honest, I did not actually see that coming. Well, I mean, for a Christmas theme, then yeah, this gets 10 out of 10. I like that, that's cute. Thank you for telling me that. I really did not notice that at all. But in terms of like, you know, excluding the theme, yeah, like a lot of the modes are incomplete, and you know the team could easily be improved with trades. But if you just wanted to have a Christmas themed team and ball out, then this is rank 1 on the Christmas team. The Christmas theme team. There we go. Whole sentence. It's rank number 1 on that scale. So, but yeah. Let us move on to our last team. Our rank 1 team. It should not surprise anybody that it's Quick's team. Our rating champion, Quick, I believe he won last season. Yeah, Quick's team is pretty disgusting. Very similar to Parenthetical's team in the other division. It's got a really good combination of offense and bulk. It has a solid type chart on top of that, and it has varied toolkits. Like Whimsicott can do a lot of different things. Dusknoir, Milotic, they can all do a lot of different things. And then like Arcanine Hisui, Arceus Blood Moon, Hatterene, Metagross are ridiculously strong offensive pieces. I would say my biggest issue with this team is, again, the multiple 4x weaknesses. There's not that many, and one of them is, or 2 of them are Terra Captains, but I think it can make team building a little bit hard when you have to consider that. You have to consider that opponents will at least be looking to bring like those coverage moves specifically. Like if I'm playing against this team, like I better make sure I have water moves to beat Arcanine Hisui and to a lesser extent Blood Moon. You know what I mean? I also think Ghost offense can be a little bit tricky for this team. It's nice that they have the Arceus Blood Moon, and you know they have Scrafty as well that resist Ghost. But I feel like once those guys can be dealt with, the team might struggle a little bit if they have to face a strong Ghost type. But all in all, this team is really well built. It's no wonder it's number 1. Like look at those average stats. That bulk is off the chain. That offense is crazy, and he's got really clean speed tiers with good speed control. So well done, Quick. Absolutely monster of a team. And this is another one where I say I look forward to facing you, not your team, just you. Oh man. And that is going to be all of the teams for the Z Conference. Here are your final rankings. Going to be Quick's team in first. Anno, Tachi, KD, Jakes, Stacks, Dan V, Mega Man, Stone Storm, Mick Honor, Alola, Jonah, and then myself at the bottom because I will not rate my team. I do think a lot more coaches in this division opted to go more top heavy. So like the difference of degree between like the top 4 teams to like the next 4 and then to like the bottom 4, I think is a little bit of a wider gap. Like I think from Quick to KD, those teams are all they're closer together, but I think when you go from like KD to Jakes, the gap starts widening a little bit, and then like you know you have Stacks all the way to like Stone Storm, and then I think the gap widens again, kind of thing there. And I'm somewhere in there, but you'll have to play me to find out how good my team is. That's that's the best thing I can give you. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this stream of the Champions Path Draft League Week 1 power rankings. You know, I do love to run my mouth about Pokemon. If you are new here, feel free to leave a like, a comment, and a subscribe. I would appreciate it. And good luck, have fun, and I'll see you all on the battlefield. Peace.